I'm the suspended registered nurse in New Zealand because I spoke out against the trans agenda and received lots of complaints for my online meme posting. So Nursing Council had suspended me about a year ago now, just over a year ago, and that was mostly because I refused to engage with them after I was mandated out of work anyway, and so I was just angry about everything. They've received some more complaints about me, so I'm going to be reintroduced to the conduct committee in future to talk about my suspension. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I've got a lot of evidence now from international and in New Zealand to prove everything I'm talking about. So I wanted to talk tonight about two areas, which was about speaking out in the workplace, especially in the medical field, and also what type of research to look out for that are the red flags in the transgender healthcare research, because there's so much coming out, and it's really important to know as clinicians and other people reading the research, the scientific research from their side, how to know that it's pseudoscience and that it's bogus. So what I did when I was nursing and fell down the gender rabbit hole, like Steph said about documenting, so I knew that I had to be a whistleblower in the workplace that I was working, which was in mental health. So what I did was that, and this is what others can do around, is we have the two guidelines in healthcare. Ministry of Health produces this one, and then this one. So what you can do is you can go through those guidelines and then go to your workplace guidelines. And this can also be in schools as well, because the gender identity is being taught in schools, and then of course these kids end up in the mental hospitals or being seen by healthcare practitioners, is then go through and you will have policies and guidelines called child abuse and neglect intervention guidelines and violence intervention and child protection policies. So I found at least 20 points in there that I could match up and go, actually, like, these guidelines are a massive red flag, and these are the areas that it's impacting on children. And start that paper trail, start sending it to the managers who are supposed to be listening, start sending it to your union reps, even send it to other staff members amongst yourself if you know that, oh, I can actually talk a little bit more openly about this. And don't feel bullied, because they are bullies, these people, especially on the inside at the moment, and they will use a lot of tactics in order to discourage you from speaking out. But at the end of the day, it's about the children that are being affected by this. Another lot of information that people can send above in management is the RANZCP, which was in Royal Australian New Zealand, something of psychiatrists and psychologists. They released a position statement a few years ago, so you can use that as well. And there is also legal documents written up already over from the States for a parent to use if a clinician is trying to actually trans your child. So then I was going to talk about the research. So with transgender healthcare, there's lots of it which uses the words transgender, and it uses the word cis, and they're making this research is based on a clinical assumption that the child is trans. So in some ways, we now have like a few years worth of evidence of these clinicians who are conducting these trials, clinical trials on the children. So their names are on the research. So they're leaving themselves a paper trail as well for us to come back to in future and hold them to account. Yeah, these clinicians are revealing themselves, and it's written in ideological language and is very biased. And of course, there's no long-term follow-ups. It's all just very simple about, I asked them in a quiz how they felt before starting. Out of 10, did you feel happy, before starting puberty blockers? And they say yes. And after puberty blockers, 6 months later, did you still feel happy? And they say yes. There's no science behind that. That's not proper research that's going on. So then as well, I guess in New Zealand, that if people are wanting, because I wrote my document in not last year, the year before, New Zealand and gender dysphoria in youth. I've sent it to many politicians. So if healthcare professionals or education providers want to read it, then you can email me at suffragettesnz@protonmail.com. And so what I did at the time was, as well, I just knew what was coming for us and where we were heading. And so that's why I wrote it. And I've got in there all of our stuff, all the people who know the side that we're on, and calling out the BS of this transgender ideology, and all of the good research. And so you can, once you know what the good stuff is, then you can see the really bad, shocking stuff. What else? So we have now, at the end of March in New Zealand, we have Posey Parker coming, and I know she's coming to Australia as well, so that's really exciting for all of us. And I encourage all the people who are watching tonight or listening in to maybe try head along to that event, because it's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be amazing to see what type of transactivism or what type of abuse that we're going to see. And I guess as women in New Zealand, Australia, to mentally prepare ourselves for that to occur, because obviously from overseas we get to see what Posey is up against. And I will also be releasing a petition to start that going around, because as we know, in New Zealand as well, they pushed through the self-sex ID. So in the BDMRR bill this year, June 15th, it is now, you won't have to go to a family court judge to change your birth certificate, and you won't have to have a medical certificate either. So it's going to be great. So thanks to all the politicians for throwing us all under the bus. So that will be happening as well. And again, we still don't have a really good politician here in New Zealand, like you do in Australia with Senator Claire Chandler. So we're also on the lookout for a really turfy politician who wants to come on our side.